Hey guys, Noah from Stage 3 Motorsports, and today we're going to be bringing you an install on this Elka suspension system for the 15 to 19 F150s. Now this kit includes their 2.5 front coilovers as well as 2.5 rear shocks, and both of these have external reservoirs and adjustments on them to dial in the compression and get a ride that suits your build. So we've got everything laid out for the kit right here. We're going to go ahead and throw this in our 2018 truck, take it down to Joe's shop, and get this installed. A quick note for this install, we're going to be removing a Falcon suspension kit from our truck, but the uninstall process and the install process for the new Elkas are going to be exactly the same as it would be stock. Start by lifting the truck and removing the wheels to get access to your suspension. Remove the dust cover and the axle nut from the hub to unbolt the axle. Now remove the nut from the tie rod end and use a hammer to break the tie rod free from the knuckle. Then loosen up the upper control arm nut until it's at the end of the threads, but do not remove it completely. Use a hammer to hit the knuckle near the upper control arm if it's bound up. Next, remove the brake and vacuum line brackets that are attached to the knuckle and to the strut tower to provide additional slack. Relieve tension on the upper control arm by loosening it at the strut tower connections. This is optional, but it makes moving the UCA much easier. Next, remove the sway bar from the end link. We'll also remove the upper control arm nut from the knuckle and rotate it out of the way. Remove the two bottom bolts holding your factory strut in the lower control arm. Then move to the top of the strut and remove the three nuts that attach the strut to the shock tower. Move your upper control arm out of the way and pull the entire strut out of the truck. With the factory strut out of the way, slide in the new Elka coilover. Lift the unit up and loosely attach the top of the coilover to the shock tower with the provided hardware. Do not tighten these nuts down just yet. Then attach the bottom of the coilover to the lower control arm with the new hardware. Do not tighten these down completely, we'll come back to them in a minute. Move back up to the top of the coilover and tighten the nuts down completely. Then tighten the bolts at the bottom to secure the whole unit. Position the axle into the knuckle and carefully spline the CV into the IWE hub. Then insert the upper control arm back into the knuckle and loosely thread the nut back on. Tighten the axle nut down, but be careful not to over-tighten it. Once complete, simply tap the dust cover back into place. Now tighten the upper control arm nut, securing it to the knuckle. Reattach the tie rod end and tighten it down as well. Next, tighten the upper control arm connections at the shock tower. Go back through and reattach your vacuum lines and brake lines to the shock tower and the steering knuckle. Then reattach the sway bar to the end link and tighten down the nut. A quick note, Elka's instructions say to attach your reservoir bracket to the lower intercooler support, but because our truck is a 5.0 that doesn't have an intercooler, we attached it higher up on the frame. Now use the provided hardware to attach the reservoir bracket to the truck's frame and tighten it into place. Once the bracket is in place, take the reservoir and mount it to the bracket using the two hose clamps to lock it down. Moving around to the back of the truck, start by removing both the upper and lower shock mount bolts to pull out your rear shock. Position the new Elka rear shock by sliding the bottom bolt through first. Then compress the shock down and insert the top bolt. Tighten both the top and the bottom to factory spec, and that's going to complete the install. Lastly, just make sure to have your vehicle professionally aligned so you don't have any issues with steering or tire wear, and that'll be a wrap on this Elka suspension kit.